Good morning and welcome to today's morning movement mobility session. As always, this is going to be 20 to 30 minutes of gentle movement designed to warm up your body, work on mobility, and you can go at your own pace. All that you need is some space, a yoga mat, and maybe it's something to hold on to, whether it's a folding chair, a dining room chair, or a wall. So first, we're going to start on the floor for this circuit. So give yourself a moment to make your way down to a comfortable surface. If you have a yoga mat or carpet, anything like that is great. And we're going to start in the hands and knees position with a upper body shoulder mobility exercise. So find your way to knees under hips and hands under shoulders, and then bring one arm out at 90 degrees with your elbow even with your shoulder, kind of in a field goal posed position. And then you're going to rotate your hand down towards the floor and then up back to that starting position. So I'm really staying within a mostly 90-degree range of motion. At the bottom, if it feels okay on your shoulder, you can start to bring those fingertips past 90 degrees to get a little bit of internal rotation. And as we bring the fingertips back up, we're working that external shoulder rotation. So a nice controlled movement is what we're going for here. Taking it really slow and controlled versus swinging the arm. And the rest of the body stays really still with that back flat. So it'll be our last one for this side. And then I'll turn so that you can see this on the other side. Again, same position, elbow out at 90 degrees, and then rotating those fingertips down and up, always aiming to keep that 90-degree bend at the elbow, taking it really nice and controlled, easy pace. Sometimes with exercises, even mobility and stretching, it can be tempting to hold your breath, but make sure to breathe comfortably, normally if you can. If you want to think about timing your exhale as you raise your fingertips, you could, or just breathe in whatever way comes naturally. Last one for this side, and rest. For our second exercise, you're going to lay down on your back, so make your way there, and we have our legs tucked in. We're going to do some knee circles, which is really going to work on a little bit of hip mobility and massaging a bit of the SI joint as we go in a counterclock direction first, or whichever way you naturally went. I'm just guiding the knees gently with my hands. Again, not going at too quick of a pace. Just taking your time, trying to make a really smooth circle. One more this direction. And then switch and go the opposite direction. For me, that's clockwise. Bring the knees forward, side, close to me, side, and repeat. This doesn't have to be a huge circle. Just keeping it smooth and controlled throughout that whole movement. One more circle. And rest. Good. And then our third exercise, the last in this circuit, is going to be a dead bug with bent knees. This is going to work both hip and shoulder mobility while engaging your core. So start with your knees bent at 90 degrees and your hands facing the fingertips straight up towards the ceiling. And what I want you to do is think about pushing your spine into the floor, like you're trying to arch your back or round your back into the ground rather. Then you're going to drop a heel towards the ground as you bring your arms towards the ground, and then slowly bring them both back up. Then other side goes. This one takes a little bit of coordination, so give yourself a few tries to get the hang of it. We're alternating sides. One heel drifts towards the ground, the arms go with that leg, bring it back to the top. Other side, heel goes, arms go, and they both come back to the top. And again, you're trying to keep that contact of your spine on the floor the whole time. That is what's going to engage your core. And you might notice it feels a little more challenging the closer your heel gets to the ground. Try to keep breathing. Heel goes to the ground, arms go with it. They come together, back up. One more on each side. Down and up. Other side. Down and up. Very nice. That's our first round. We're going to do 2 sets of everything, so you get another chance to practice each mobility exercise. So make your way back onto that hands and knees position, grabbing a little extra cushion for the knees if it feels like you need it, finding that nice flat back with your hands directly under shoulders, knees directly under your hips, and then bring that elbow out to 90 degrees. And we'll start with those internal and external shoulder rotations. And as with mobility, sometimes you find in that second round, you can get a little bit more range of motion. So as long as you keep everything else still and that elbow bent at 90 degrees, you can bring your fingertips down a little bit further or try to raise them a little bit higher at the top. But you can also just stay in a smaller range of motion. You're still practicing moving that shoulder joint in its socket, which is working it through a nice range of motion. 2 more for this side. Last one. And rest. You can stay facing that way. I'm just going to turn in case you want to watch this side as well. Bringing that arm out to 90 degrees. Back stays nice and flat as you start those rotations. Nice and controlled. Keeping that elbow lifted. Sometimes that's the hardest part because it engages that rear delt. So try not to let it drop too much, but if it needs to, that's okay. Just thinking about controlling that movement at the shoulder socket. Keeping that right angle in your elbow. We've got one more. And rest. Very good. Then bring yourself back down to the lying position with your knees tucked in. Make your way here, and then choose whichever direction, clockwise or counterclockwise, you want to start with. And we'll just gently guide the knees with the hands in those hip knee circles. You should feel your weight just shifting ever so slightly from one side of your pelvis to the other side of your pelvis as you bring the knees to each side. You don't need to shift them too much, but just enough that you feel the weight distribution change from one side to the other. And if this ever felt like too much, you could always just make a smaller circle Or just sit with your knees tucked in and get a little bit of a stretch there. Now reverse directions. Going the other way. Keeping it nice and controlled. Really trying to smooth out the edges of that circle. Keeping your breathing even. Last circle. And rest. Very good. And then we'll move on to that last one, the dead bug, our most complicated of this set. But we start with our fingertips pointing straight up to the ceiling, and then find that bent knee position to start. And then before you do anything else, press that spine firmly into the ground. And then we're going to move both arms as you lower one heel to the ground. And then bring everything back to that starting position. Other side. And the key is to keep this really slow and steady, both as you're lowering down and coming back to that starting position. Sometimes people want to race back up to the top of the position, but just take your time. That keeps our mobility really active in the hip by not rushing to bring the leg back up. And of course, try to keep breathing. As we tighten those core muscles, there's the tendency to hold your breath. So just think about exhaling if you notice you're holding your breath. We'll do one more on each side. Taking your time. Last one. And rest. Very good. Alrighty, then we're going to come up to standing circuits for the rest of the workout today. So make your way to somewhere where you can have a little bit of balance support, whether it's a wall or holding onto a chair. And then our first one is going to be some standing hip circles. This one might be a little bit familiar. I often like to have my hand on my core or on my hip. And you're going to bring your knee up, out, but then we're going to lower it down and then bring it straight back forward. So knee up, out, and then back down. I'll show you a couple from this angle. Knee up, out, and then straighten it and bring it back forward. Knee up, out, down, and back to the top. Knee up, out, straighten it down. Knee up, out, and straighten it down. One more, up, out, and down. Very good. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So grab that balance support, keep your posture nice and tall, and then bring the knee up, out, and down. This is kind of a semicircle motion that we're creating. We're not bringing that knee all the way back behind you. Just out to the side gets us that full opening and external rotation of the hip. Your hips should feel pretty nice after today's session, really open and a little bit looser. And we'll do one more. And rest. Good. All right, our second one is going to be for posture and shoulder mobility. This is a segmented bent over fly. So we're going to start with feet shoulder width apart, and then you're going to hinge over with a flat back. This has me feel a little bit of stretch in my hamstring, and there is a little bend in my knee, and my arms just start straight right here. Then I'm going to pull my elbows back, extend my arms out to a T, and then lower them straight back to the start. So it's row, airplane arms, and straight back to the start. It's a really kind of robotic, isolated movement, not very flowy or circular like some of our other exercises, but really focusing on that kind of mechanical pull of the arms, straighten them out, and then lower with control. Keeping my back flat. If this challenged your lower back or core, you could also do this one just standing. Here's what that would look like. Straight out and then back to the start. But we'll do one more. Pull, airplane, and arms back to the start. Very nice. Alrighty, and then our last one is going to be a nice relaxing side to side stretch with our arms extended straight overhead. And so with this one, I want you to think about reaching your fingertips up to the ceiling, and then you're going to stretch over like you're a bending tree, one direction and then the other. And as I'm reaching, I'm still thinking about lengthening through my fingertips as I reach over. So I'm still reaching up as I bend to the side. This helps me get a lot of stretch on the side of that rib cage, in the obliques. And this isn't too quick of a side to side swing. It's just a nice, gentle, controlled lean at the top. Pass through that middle, not too quickly, and then back over to the other side. One more for each. And rest. Very nice. Okay, we'll do this circuit one more time through to complete our 2 times. So find your way back to the start, holding on to something for a little bit of balance for those standing hip circles, bringing the knee up, out, and down. Maybe the second round, you can really think about staying tall, like you have a string, pulling your head up to the ceiling, or maybe even bringing that knee a little higher before you bring it out and down. Trying not to lean too much on the fingertips. Sometimes even I catch myself doing that. It kind of shifts the weight off of that mobility on your side. So just make sure to put a lot of your weight in the foot that's on the ground. And we'll do one more. And rest. Good. Then the second one, hitting that other side, knee up, out, and just going at your own speed. Really thinking about that movement being in the hip. Sometimes you might hear sounds. Sometimes that's a tendon rolling over something. Sometimes it's just a little tightness, or sometimes it's even cracking. As long as there's no pain, that's totally okay. Things are just working themselves out. I always have a little more of that on my right side than I do on my left. But you may notice the more you do something, those kind of creaks and cracks go away a little bit. One more for this side. And rest. Very good. Alrighty, take a moment to get in position for our segmented bent over fly. And this one, we're finding that hinge position to start, or you can start standing with your arms straight out in front of you, if that feels better. But hinge over with a flat back. Feel that hamstring stretch with a bend in your knee, and then pull the elbows back. Reach the arms out to a T, and then lower them back to the start. Make sure that your chin is somewhat tucked on this, that you're not craning your neck to look up or forward. That just creates a nice neutral neck. And we're taking these really slow, robotically, thinking about holding a lot of that tension in your upper middle back. We'll do 2 more. I'll show you the last one in the standing position in case you want to do that later, or maybe you're doing it now. Pull, straighten, and then finish with the arms straight. Very nice. Alrighty, and our third one is going to be that overhead reach, reaching up as high as you can, and then shifting over to the side, passing through center, shifting to the other side. As always with mobility, how far you lean is up to you. Just use your body's feedback as how far you want to tip over. Really what we're looking at is that lengthening up of the fingertips, so let that be your focus if you find that it doesn't feel as good to lean too far to the side. We'll do 1 more on each side. And rest. Very nice. Alrighty, and then we have 2 exercises for our last circuit. The first one is going to be Frankenstein leg lifts. We're going to do these without the Frankenstein arms today, so just use your imagination for that. And have your hand on your hips, and then you're going to bring one leg up as high as you can, keeping that leg straight-ish. If you needed to hold on to balance for this, hold on to something for balance, that's okay. But if you can, use that core for a little bracing. We're getting a little passive hamstring stretch as we lift the leg. Might feel a little bit of quad activation. And we're getting mobility at the hip as we raise and lower the leg. This one doesn't have to be as slow and controlled as others, but just try not to swing your leg completely. 1 more, and rest. Good, and we have an easy one for our second one. You just get to stand still and hold your hands behind your back, just interlocked if you can, or even just touching fingertips if you need to. And then you're going to pull the shoulders back and then reach your hands down as much as they'll let you, opening up the chest and shoulders. Think really open collarbones. And then you're just gonna lift up ever so slightly if you can. If you can't, that's okay. And I'm thinking about pulling my shoulder blades open, rather pulling the front of my shoulders open. And then bring your hands back down and release. Alrighty, we'll do each of those 1 more time and then you'll be done. So going back, getting ready for those Frankensteins, hands on the hips or holding on for a little bit of balance, and then raising 1 leg up and then the other. And you don't have to try to really force your leg up. If yours only lifts to about here, that's totally okay. Over time, you can try to get a little bit more lift. Also making sure not to lean back with the torso or to crunch too far forward, just keeping that nice, tall, upright posture. And it's totally encouraged and good if you're feeling a little bit of core and a little bit of quad on this one. 1 more. And rest. Very good. Alrighty, and then our last one is that chest and shoulder opener. Thinking about pulling those shoulder blades back after you find that hands interlocked position. Pull them down first, and then start to lift the hands a little bit, if the body allows. And I'm thinking about pulling my arms as far away from my body as I can. That helps to open up the chest and the shoulders. And just hold this for a last 3, 2, 1. Bring the hands down and then release. All right, wonderful job today. I hope that you feel warmed up and ready to tackle whatever your day has in store, whether it's a walk or some cardio or some strength training. If you want more information and content, you can find me over on Instagram at HelloStrengthSeniors, and you can also find ways to support this channel. So I look forward to seeing you in our next mobility class, and thanks for joining me today.